This is also electronic, and that's also electronic. So I've sent you the link. If you can send it also.
No, that link has to be there. If you would see that the link is not forthcoming as the way it should come for the Amazon, I will create it on my own and then I will share it.
Okay.
Okay. Correct. Yeah. Just one. Okay, so where? So we are about to go live. Good evening, everyone, and
good evening.
Happy Shivratri and Happy Women's Day. As they say that the day of Shiv as well as women, they are every day. It's only that we just connote one particular day on that. And to give semblance with these two mega events, I will say, which we all celebrate with such rejoice, etc. There couldn't be a better way to celebrate, understand the gender today and tomorrow. From Justice Roshan Dalvi, a former judge from Bombay High Court, Justice Manju Goel, a former judge from Delhi High Court, and Justice Somayajulu from Bombay High Court. And
Andhra High Court.
And it's not for the first time that we are connecting on this platform of Beyond Law CLC, as well as on different platforms we have connected. And those who have been watching them or following them, you would always find that knowledge is not restricted only to the perspectives of gender, but beyond that. I would say that it has more semblance with our topic of Beyond Law, what we call as the YouTube channel. And once there are three big stalwarts who can take things forward, I will just straight away ask Justice Roshan Dalvi, who has also written so many books. And today she will be taking cue from her book of The Trials and Tramps, which is readily available on the Amazon link. We will share it on our YouTube link as well as on the WhatsApp group. I will just ask Roshan Dalvi to take the baton, and we are just waiting for having the insights from such good speakers and persons who are respected in the society at large. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, friends. It's a happy day, but it's also a day for introspection. Friends, women have reached the top in all professions, in all careers, and in all walks of life at many, many places. But these are lakhs of women that have reached the top, and there are millions who have not been able to. It is for them that we should have the Women's Day. It is okay to celebrate our successes, but it is also good to think and appreciate of the trials that women have gone through to achieve that, and that others are still going through and who have not achieved that. Now, friends, there have been various instances, and I have enumerated about 100 of them in my book, where women have succeeded, achieved, and triumphed. In COVID, we found that the largest exponent of what women are and what they go through came out. It was that even in Columbia University, women were adversely affected by COVID. They had their children to care for, and they could not, even in the research section, give as many articles and papers as they did before and as the men were giving. In COVID, we saw that in so many countries led by women, COVID was better organized and managed. People derided it when it happened, when it so happened in countries like Finland, Iceland, etc., that they are small countries and therefore it was fine. But Germany is a large country and Merkel did exceptionally well. And if you know, even the reports said that Bangladesh did better than India, and it was led by women, a woman who is still in power. So this is so much for the politics, but throughout the length and breadth of India also we've had this. At the Siachen Glacier, a woman leads a man's battalion. And in ISRO, there were so many women scientists that we saw. And the idea of the Mars taking off and succeeding when it had failed before was the idea of a woman. a woman of how she made puris. That is what we saw in that film. And that is what we always understand about the heat that should be transmitted, not really with masculine strength, but with feminine agility. So, friends, when we talk about this day and just merely wish everyone a happy Women's Day, it's not enough. And it is not right that we don't think of others. So we do both today.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you've set the tone for the meeting today. That's a wonderful way to start this meeting on such a positive note. In fact, today, two things that came to my mind and I was reading the newspaper was about the way women were coming out and making a mark for themselves. Like you rightly said, there were hundreds of successes, but there are a number of unsung little people who are making a marked difference to this movement that we are trying to. Today in the paper, I read about two very interesting women. Border roads officer, a lady laying the most roads in the most critically difficult period, landscape, that is the Sayachan Glacier. A 42-year-old young engineer making a difference. Then in the district that I live in, there is a lot of tribal areas and people do not have access to roads. This young mother who had to walk in the hills donated all the money that she had to start a road. And that is making a difference for all the little women that you said who are not really achieving the success. It is these women, these unsung heroes who we should celebrate today. We may have a Sudha Murthy today, but we also have, like you rightly on the other side of the coin, a Lieutenant Serena John. 1979, Muttama was fighting a case where she was almost disqualified from the IFS. Almost 40 years later, Lieutenant Serena Jones had to be paid 60 lakhs compensation because she was dismissed from service merely because she was married. Like you rightly said, today is the day we should all get together and do something about this wonderful, on this wonderful day.
I fully agree with both of you. Now that we have received equality, we have obtained equality in the rule books and in the law, and everybody accepts the need for equality, and everybody is willing to do their bit in giving equality to women. Now the ball is in the court of the women. Now they have to make the best of it, and they have to avail of the opportunities and show that they are worth the equality that is being given to them. So what they have to do is to select an avocation, select a way of life which they want to live, and they have to groom themselves to reach the excellence. One factor that cannot be ignored is that marriage is the most biggest influencing factor in a woman's life. And when the woman is seeking marriage, what we find is that what counts most is not her merit, but her beauty. Because if you open the newspapers, you see the women are advertising to say that I'm beautiful, and men are saying, I want a beautiful wife. So men are actually not looking for meritorious women, and women are not projecting themselves as meritorious. Now, therefore, looking good is high on the agenda of women. While she is busy making herself beautiful, her male counterparts are taking those great leap forwards to go ahead in their career. So, with this traditional difference between the outlook for men and women, I agree with Justice Roshan Dalvi.
Yes, but whilst the women are doing that, and this is correct, for an average family in our country, what is success of a woman is what we must understand. How do you define success? There are several women who have not made it to the top and their names are not known, but they have done some things in their lives which have affected many careers, many lives, etc. Of course, a woman at home also is a woman who works. I would not say that if a woman is a homemaker, she does not work. And I would not say that because she does not have money or earn money, she's not worth the money. But when we are talking about success stories, of today, we come across so many women who have kind of made so much of impression on our minds. One such woman was from Andhra Pradesh, who is now called the Queen of Transmission Towers. She used to climb up on transmission towers because she was an engineer and she would repair or sort of make amends with whatever went wrong with the transmission towers. People were jeering at her, and now they call her the Queen of Transmission Towers. Similarly, there was an engineer who actually made certain instruments in Kerala to go with her father during COVID on coconut trees. And she made it easier for her father, who was a coconut puller, to pull the coconuts from the trees. Now, there are so many such cases. There is a case of rice cultivation and revolution, and there are cases where women have outshone during the most adversarial times. These are the real heroes of today.
And I will take that forward to where you left off. To me, today is an important day because you also have Sudha Murthy nominated as a member of parliament because of her outstanding achievements in her career. But at the same time, like you rightly said, ma'am, there are people who are unnoticed, but who have touched thousands of lives. And my favorite example of a very, very strong woman is Banwari Devi. Now, this is a very, very tragic case. Banwari Devi was a social worker who was preventing a child marriage. A 1-year-old child was about to be given in marriage when she stepped in and stopped it. And for that crime, she was raped by 5 upper caste women, by 5 upper caste men. These men were acquitted in a shocking judgment. Matter went up to the Supreme Court. Banwari Devi did not get cowed down. She was not afraid. Despite all the pressure that was mounted on her, she still fought for her rights, and I think she is still fighting for her rights. The offshoot of this is the Vishaka case. This is where sexual harassment at workplace was defined by the Honorable Supreme Court, rules were laid down, and now the Act has also come into force. Although the judgment was pronounced in 97 and the Act came in 2013, the fact remains that out of this lady's effort of stopping the child marriage in Rajasthan, millions of working women are today benefited because the law has been laid down by the Supreme Court and it has also become an act, the POSH or the POSH Act as it is called. One of these remarkable women is this Banwari Devi, whom we should salute on this day.
Well, success, I agree with Justice Roshan, is not reaching the top. Now, in today's context, that in the context of today's topic, I think success means reaching the full height of the potential that a woman has and expressing all her capabilities, undeterred by all the obstacles that the society presents, whether as an artist or as a player or even as an industrialist. If one is able to go to the position that she is capable of, I will call it a success. Not necessarily the winner in the traditional sense, but that's something that gives her satisfaction and something that we acknowledge as success. Sudha Murthy is coming up again and again, so I also thought of Sudha Murthy. But it's okay. Sudha Murthy may not have made it like her husband, but it is Sudha Murthy which made it for her husband to reach the position that he has. And look at the satisfaction writ large on her face. She is happy and she is proud of her husband and all that she did for her husband to reach the top. Now, here I have to mention that women have a special price to pay for this success, which the Nobel laureate Claudia Goldin said is the price of childbirth. As the woman gives birth to a child and cares for the child for a couple of years, she is left out of the race while the others are overtaking her. And if this repeats repeatedly, she falls behind while others take a march over her. No wonder then that we don't see equal number of women at top, although at the bottom we have all the women almost equal. Like even in our legal profession, as the new year begins, after the LLB results are declared, you find large number of women and men have joined the bar. But as the days pass by, the number of women dwindle, and accordingly, fewer senior advocates, fewer principals of colleges, fewer CEOs. When I see women around me as so successful, I think they deserve a special applaud, because it is their indomitable spirit that despite all these prices that she had to pay, she has still made it to the top.
Yes, and that said, friends, we must understand where men and women excel. They are in different modes and in different styles. They excel in the same careers, but in different styles. A woman, for example, would be very good in leadership, in mentoring, in taking forward along with her juniors or her subordinates or her staff. A man would think mainly of profit. He would be a very good taskmaster and a very great boss. Perhaps not a great leader, but there are of course many great leaders. Gandhiji and Nelson Mandela were the greatest leaders of our times. And Nelson Mandela had said that we must lead from the back and let the others think that they are in the front. So this is how a woman would lead. I knew about a story where, I mean, it's not really a story, an incident that happened when a judge in our court, who was an administrative judge, said that everyone must leave office premises exactly at 5:30. We must have the discipline. So you can't say that anybody can leave before. But I didn't agree. And I allowed my staff to leave before if they wanted. And I said that that is not when they think that they should want it, but if their work is over, they can go home. I may be busy, but they may not be on that given day. So it worked. I understand very well in my court, because women don't want money. They don't want prizes and gifts. They want their time. They want, that is their freedom. And that should be the leadership that comes along. And in this kind of a mold, there are so many women who have achieved that way. For example, in 9/11, there are many stories of men being told, but there is a book, Women at Ground Zero. And you will realize how many women have done such good heroic jobs on that day, which the world has failed to register.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. Lines are getting blurred, the boundaries are getting rewritten. 9/11 is a classic example of women who went beyond the call of the duty in rescuing people. In fact, one story, one incident that comes to mind is a beautiful movie called Hidden Figures. I don't know how many of you have seen it.
Yes,
About
yes.
a black woman working in NASA in the
Yes.
1950s and in the 60s and 70s, when there was a lot of racial discrimination and also gender discrimination. Despite these odds, these three women who were actually sitting, like Mr. Nelson Mandela said, at the back, who actually came up with the actual calculations that sent the lunar module out of the orbit, and John Glenn, that astronaut, to go around the world, the Earth 3 times, only because of these three women. And hidden behind the back, not noticed by anybody. The most critical element of that mission was because of these three women. And while I agree with you partly, ma'am, that they are good at, leading. Men may be better at leading and men may be better bosses. But I think the lines are getting blurred. Today you see cases of women willing to fight on the front lines and asking for active duty on the border, saying that we're as good as men. And I don't think the day is very far off when disparity that we feel is there will not really exist. They are good at nurturing, they are better at counseling, they are better at caring, they are better at inspiring, I agree. But I think the lines are getting blurred, and very soon the distinctions will be obliterated. I'm an optimist, so let's see.
Well, there are individual traits. Some people are good at something, some people are good at something else. There may be some generalization, but I think such generalizations are not to be taken very seriously. There are men who are kind, the women who are rude. So all those things are possible. Particularly if you talk about data and studies, they all depend upon the particular sample chosen for the study. But yet we have to accept that there are certain things in which the women are much better than men, particularly when it comes to caring for the little baby who cannot even speak, but the mother knows whether the child is hungry, whether the child is cold, whether the child needs a cover, or whether the child needs the arm of the mother. So this is something very special which only a woman knows and woman does. And sometimes it may be very surprising even to see how does she know about so much about the child who's not communicating. Men, on the other hand, want to show that they are brave, they are strong, and accordingly they are out to show their masculinity whenever it is possible to express their masculinity. And in the jobs in which masculinity covers or masculinity helps.
I just want to say one thing, ma'am. One telling comment that you made about women being cruel from Justice Roshan Dalvi's book itself. You just said that women can be cruel. And one wonderful comment that ma'am has made in the book about the Stousen incident. She said, how is it that only the daughters-in-law get burnt, mothers-in-law and sisters-in-law never get burnt? Very telling comment that only the daughters-in-law get burnt, mothers-in-law and sisters-in-law never get burnt.
And those are accidents, supposedly.
Supposedly.
But anyway, while we are celebrating both men and women as gender, we must see how we have progressed and what has happened in different aspects. One very nice study was a study of groupthink, and that was in New York, no other city. In the last recession in America in 2007, 2008, people realized, actually the statistics realized that it was because the analysts and people who played the market were only men. And they played the market in a given way. They did only that. But then they realized that if there were women analysts also, they would have invested more in insurance, education, and healthcare. And that kind of recession that struck America would have been milder. And there are two books written on that, and which I have written about and I have narrated and referred in my book. One is Fool's Gold, and one is Women of the Street. The street is Wall Street, of course, the most telling job in the world, they say. And there she has mentioned very nicely. She has mentioned that men don't have some special genetic code that makes them a better fit to play the market. It is simply a matter of education and knowledge. So this is how it happens. Once our mindset is set on the fact that yes, we are humans and we have got the same traits, at least if not many have, some have, and we recognize that, then the battle is won. Because it is when we don't recognize that we call it stereotyping.
I don't want to add anything more. I'll wait for Justice Manju Goel to add.
Okay.
No, I will add to what Roshan says. We all the time in the courts, because I think my audience is also accustomed to the happenings in the courts. We all the time think as to how women make a difference. And we discussed it with other senior judges. And we found that presence of a woman on the bench does make a difference, particularly when it deals with matters about which the women understand more, particularly when it comes to family. So in that area, I think we must allow the woman the first option to decide in family matters, because she understands, definitely she understands more than the man does, who spends much lesser time in the family than a woman does. Even when both the members of the family are working, the general sense is that woman is spending more time with the family while the man is also spending time with the newspaper and the TV. So with this, I will take it back to Roshan for her further deliberations.
That's okay. Now we've talked a lot about celebrating the successes. We should not forget what has been left out. Which are the areas which require concern and which require our actual introspection as well as appreciation of what trials the women are going through. These are essentially on the criminal side, as we say, offenses against women and children. I would put rape and domestic violence at the highest level, though all laws are abused. And domestic violence law is also abused by quite a few women, many women now today. Because when they come of age, there is a tendency to abuse. They have to be put in place. But we must not forget that if we go to a municipal hospital, for example, in the burnt ward, all the inmates are young married women and they are from different stratas of the society. So it is not that domestic violence is prevalent only in the lower strata or some such thing. It happens everywhere, across countries, throughout universal. In my book, I have written that if we were to inhabit Antarctica, it would be in Antarctica also. But how and why we should take care of all these things is what matters. And today we have got POXO. There is a complete legislation. I would call it a complete code for that. But yet the position has not improved. Last week, there was a gang rape in Jharkhand, which is a national shame. It was of a tourist from Spain, as you all know. So, I mean, when we were told that we were the national capital for rape, we took affront. When we were told that our GDP had gone down because women in our country were not given the same thing in the unorganized sector, we refused those reports. Sudha Murthy has said that when she attended a conference and she wanted to understand the position of a woman as per the statistics, she thought that India would be somewhere in the middle, which of course generally we are. But she was appalled to find that India is amongst the least developed countries in the world so far as patriarchy and the women in unorganized sector is concerned. So whereas the Scandinavian countries are at the top, we are lower than the SAARC nations and only higher than Pakistan. That is our position. So where men and women excel, we see, where areas which are untouched, we have to understand. See, for example, rape, when it happens, we have got our courts back to capacity with what I would call love affairs. And we don't take up the matters of the real rapes. I've called them the real rapes and the statutory rapes in my book. It is the management of these offenses that will go a long way in rendering some succor to the women who have been most oppressed. And these are the highest forms of human rights violations.
I also have one disturbing thing to add to this line of thought. Less than a few days ago, there was a case filed in the Kerala High Court. In fact, it was a report, Writ Petition 6695/2024, titled as A versus Union of India. A young bride, was given a handbook or a written note telling her how and when to conceive a son. How and when to conceive a son. This was detailed and given to her. This is, I mean, the case is still being heard. I don't want to comment about it. But the misuse of an act or the abuse of the PNDT Act, the Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act, is what I would like to highlight. That act was enacted in order to see that the fetuses do not have any deformities and to take corrective steps. But it is being used to abort a female baby. Once they realize that the baby is a female, they are taking steps to abort the baby. This is the sad state of affairs. This is something that still needs to be addressed. Even that act, when it actually came into force in 1994, bill had to be filed seeking a direction from the Supreme Court to get this act to be implemented, and it came to be disposed in 2003. For 9 long years, that was in cold storage, till the Supreme Court gave a slight tap on the knuckles and they were forced to enact the rules. This is one area, like you rightly said, ma'am, an area that is neglected, an area on which we should prevent the abuse of law and ensure that the act is really used to end this bias against the female baby should be removed at all costs.
You see, so far as rape is concerned, the government statistics say that 98.6% of the cases are within the known people. That means the victim and the offender are known to each other. They may not all be love affairs, but there may be other cases where people who are trusted by the family have raped the girl. And we all know the reported cases are much less than the actual cases. Maybe larger number of cases are not reported. And then domestic violence, huge numbers, only the extreme cases come to the courts. Now, these offenses happen within the four walls of the house. The state has not much role to play in this. So, what is playing there is the patriarchal mindset. So, what we need to do is actually to remove this mindset and acknowledge the honor and position of a woman in the family in the right sense. This we have to do by educating the children and the adolescents, because that is the time when they learn. After the impressionable age is over, they are as good or as bad as any one of us. And another thing we have to do simultaneously is to educate the girls, because they must also understand that they are important. They should have the ability to stand on their own 2 feet. Now, our statistics again show that 50% of our girls get married before attaining the age of 18 years. That means they are either removed from the school before marriage or immediately on marriage. That means even the school education is not completed. And accordingly, when they get into adversities, they don't know the way out. And sometimes they are compelled to bear those adversities. And 18 years is not the right age even for childbirth. What to talk about leading a matrimonial life? And we all know what marriage means in our society. So it is very important to make the woman stand on her own feet. And let us all understand that real equality. Allow me, if I have time, to narrate one small story conceived by our Nobel laureate poet more than 100 years back about the equality of women. Do we have the time? 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yes.
Yes. Now, this is the story based on Mahabharata's small part where Arjun comes to Manipur in exile. There he meets Chitrangada, the princess of that place. The king, having no son, had raised Chitrangada as a man. She knows all the warfare, she knows the statecraft. Eventually, when she sees Arjuna, she falls for her. But till then, she had no womanly feelings. Now she goes to God of love and asks for beauty, because now she wants to seduce Arjuna. Now, God of love says, you will be beautiful by the night, but in the daytime, you will be the same. So in the night, she goes to Arjuna and Arjuna is charmed. But in the morning, when she leaves, Arjuna goes to the people and he hears the stories of Chitrangada. Chitrangada is brave, she is motherly, but she is also like a king. She can fight the enemies, can drive away the robbers, and he is extremely eager to meet such a princess. So in the night when Chitrangada comes, he says, can you take me to Chitrangada? I hear so much about her. I want to see her at least once. Then Chitrangada laments, oh, what shame, what shame. I have asked for beauty. So she asks the beauty to go, and she then reveals herself. And for Arjuna, when eventually Arjuna wants to marry her, he says, okay, I have one condition. I will be your equal. I will be by your side, whether in war or in peace. If you agree, only then I'm yours. So I think this is the way to express how merit overtakes beauty. And what is equality? Now that our women are also willing to go to the fronts and asking for combat positions. This 125 years back, what Tagore wrote, I think he would have been very happy had he been here and seen how women have made it now.
So, friends, to conclude, what is it that we should do from today till the next year? One is collective action of multiple stakeholders. men as well as women. It is for men to come out and say that we abhor violence and we will not accept it. It is for them to actually speak, and there is no need for only women to speak about all these causes. We are speaking for the human cause. Okay. Now there's an association called MAVA, Men Against Violence and Abuse, in Bombay, which is doing very good work. They make films on gender equality and they show it to schools and colleges to actually impress young minds. Then there is a United Nations, one small organization called He for She, where also men have come forward and said that we should have equality, not only on the civil side, but on the criminal side. That means, as we talk in law, that against offenses as well as in careers. And that has been doing some very good work. There is some magazine which is called Purush Pandana, which shows actual stories of how women have succeeded, etc., and how they should be on par. But today, increasing number of men are also taking the lead. And as Sheryl Sandberg has said in Lean In, it is a book which I have referred to in my book. A truly equal world would be where women run half our countries and companies, and men run half our homes. So that, friends, would be diversity, equity, and inclusion. In the corporate sector, they talk of diversity and inclusion only, and it is going at a great pace, and that is good. But being trained in law, I would say it should be diversity, equity, and insurance, because there should be a level playing field. Because what is it that there are numbers? All the time people are talking about how many women are here and how many women are there. That is not the only thing that is required. In fact, that is not what is required. Because as Justice Manju said, if you are going to see merit, it should be only on merit. It should not be on quotas and those kind of things. But merit must be recognized, appreciated, and encouraged. And that we can do at home right from the beginning and in schools and colleges. I think it is a case of social study. Just as we are now having yoga, we should be having nutrition, say the doctors. Similarly, we should be having the legal rights of all, and legal right to equality. So I would say to Manju said that we should educate girls. Of course, we are all educated and therefore we are equals. But I would say, beta padhao, beti bachao. Because unless we treat and we actually educate our children to respect women from the beginning, it is not going to happen. And if that happens, the entire generation would change, and our Women's Day will not be a day only to say, oh, happy Women's Day. Yes. I hope next year we say something else. Thank you, friends.
Ma'am, I fully agree with what you say. I think we should be like Mahatma Gandhi said, we should be the change that we want. And yes, like you rightly said, the change should begin from the home. Every father should teach his young son how to respect a lady of the house, how to respect even the maid of the house, how to respect a lady who delivers the groceries or the milk. He should open a door to a lady. He should show respect to a lady, because a child would immediately inculcate the habit from his father. Any child, whether it's a boy or a girl, it should therefore start from home. And as you rightly said, schools and colleges also should have a course on this. The fact that women are coming out and fighting, every time a woman raises a cry, like the Me Too movement or anything, I feel every sane, able-bodied man should support that cause. Yes. Not sit and talk. You should actively stand up and support these women who are crying out for justice. Start at home, teach your children the right manners, and be there as an active supporter for the cause of. And as far as courts are concerned, ma'am, since both of you are distinguished judges, I think quick disposal of these cases is also absolutely necessary. They are getting bogged down in these years and years. They're just being buried under the paperwork. Something should be done to quickly. Although courts have been established, the required speed and efficacy has not been achieved. One other thing apart from education is also educating our prosecutors, our police officers, our bystanders in the court, not to subject a woman who's a victim to another sordid episode. I don't want to say anything more. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, both my brother and my sister. It has been an excellent evening for me. And all that you have said will resonate with me for long. It is true. What I think is the same thing as you think and Madam Roshan Dalvi thinks. It is good that we all think that it is the education which eventually will help. Education will have to be perhaps redefined. Now that is being done, perhaps. That should include character building, which Vivekanand said is not putting all the information in the brain and run riots there. Education should be man building, character building, nation building education. I think this is what we need.
So, I was just thinking that there couldn't be a better way to get yourself educated from three persons who have created their mark within the society. And it actually resonates with, just as Manju Goel says, that all those who watch this session would have a brownie points to learn, and they will have something with which they can actually inculcate things. And after the session, I feel that there are more like seedlings which actually will grow into plants and trees, and we will have a better tomorrow. And for us, it will be, as they say, that why only celebrate Women's Day or Shivratri on one particular day? Once you inculcate better things, it will continue to imbibe good values, good teachings, and a good society for tomorrow. And thank you to all three speakers. We have been enriched. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.